The desperate Plaith, deep space communication array floating in the darkness beyond Pluto, suddenly came alive with signals that had never been detected before. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stared at her monitoring station aboard the orbital platform, watching patterns of light dance across her screens in ways that made her heart race. After 3 years of listening to empty space, something was finally talking back. "Commander Chun, you need to see this immediately," Maya called across the communications center, her voice carrying an urgency that made everyone stop what they ate. "We're doing." Captain Sarah Chun pushed back from her desk and walked over to Maya's station, her military boots echoing against the metal floor. At 35, Chun had spent most of her career preparing for this exact moment, though she had never quite believed it would actually happen. First contact with an alien civilization was something that existed in training simulations and theoretical discussions, not in the quiet routine of monitoring deep space. "What are we looking at, Lieutenant?" Chun asked, studying the complex wave patterns flowing across the display screens. "It's definitely artificial, ma'am. The signal is coming from approximately 12 light years away, and the computer is already working on translation protocols. But, Commander, there's something else. The transmission isn't random or exploratory. It's being broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously, like they're trying to reach anyone who might be listening." Chun felt a chill run down her spine. A civilization advanced enough for interstellar communication wouldn't waste energy on random broadcasts unless something was seriously wrong. She activated her command console and opened a direct line to Earth Defense Headquarters. "Priority 1 communication to Director Webb," she announced into her headset. "We have a Code 7 situation." Within minutes, the main screen in the communications center flickered to life, showing the face of Director Marcus Webb. At 58, Webb had overseen the expansion of Earth's defense capabilities for the past decade, always preparing for threats that most people considered science fiction. His gray eyes showed immediate alertness as he processed Chun's report. "Captain, are you telling me we have confirmed extraterrestrial contact?" Webb asked, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the situation. "Yes, sir. The signal is complex and appears to be some form of distress call. Lieutenant Rodriguez, show the director what we're seeing." Maya transferred her display to the main screen, and Webb studied the patterns with growing concern. Even without understanding the alien language, the urgency in the transmission was unmistakable. The signals repeated in rapid bursts with increasing intensity that suggested desperation. "How long until we have a translation?" Webb asked. "The quantum computers estimate another 6 hours for basic communication protocols," Maya replied. "But sir, based on the signal strength and repetition patterns, I don't think we have 6 hours. Whatever is happening out there, it's happening now." Webb nodded grimly. "Captain Chun, I want you to assemble a priority response team. Include our best linguists, military strategists, and diplomatic specialists. If this is a first contact scenario, we need to be prepared for anything." As if responding to his words, the alien signal suddenly changed. The chaotic patterns resolved into something more structured, and the translation computers began producing fragments of understandable language. Maya's eyes widened as she read the preliminary results. "Commander, the computer is getting pieces of the message. It's asking for help. The words sanctuary, fleeing, and extinction keep appearing in the translation matrix." Chun and Webb exchanged looks across the communication link. This was no longer just first contact. It was a refugee crisis on an interstellar scale. 3 hours later, the full translation came through, and the words that appeared on the screens of Earth Defense Headquarters would change human history forever. The message began with a simple introduction that carried the weight of a dying civilization. "This is Ambassador Zelix of the Phylorian Republic. speaking on behalf of the last free settlements of our people. We broadcast this message to any civilization capable of receiving it, in the hope that somewhere in the darkness of space there exists a species that remembers what it means to show mercy to the helpless. Captain Chun sat in the emergency briefing room alongside 12 of Earth's most qualified experts, listening as the alien's translated voice continued through the speakers. The translation software had improved dramatically over the past few hours, and Zelix's words came through with heartbreaking clarity. For 800 cycles, the Thylaurian Republic has lived in peace among the stars. We are explorers and teachers, artists and healers. Our greatest achievement has been the creation of harmony between 15 different worlds, each contributing their unique gifts to our shared civilization. We have never known war, never understood the desire to take what belongs to others. Dr. Elizabeth Carter, Earth's leading xenobiologist, made notes as she listened. The linguistic patterns suggest a highly developed society with complex social structures. The way they describe their civilization indicates a federation model, possibly more advanced than our own United Nations. Zelix's voice continued, and the hope in the earlier part of the message began to fade into something darker. 3 cycles ago, our outer colonies detected massive fleets approaching from the galactic rim. Ships unlike anything in our databases, built for destruction, rather than exploration. We attempted communication, offering trade agreements and cultural exchange. The response was the obliteration of the Thylaurian colony on Kepler Prime. General Patricia Martinez, Earth's senior military strategist, leaned forward in her chair. Captain, are we looking at a species fleeing from conquest? That appears to be the case, General, but there's more. The alien message continued with growing desperation. The Krovar Dominion has swept through our territory like a plague of metal locusts. They do not seek to rule us or enslave us. They simply wish us to cease existing. 14 of our 15 worlds have fallen. The populations have been eliminated. Not captured, not enslaved, but completely eradicated, as if we were nothing more than inconvenient weeds in a garden they wish to claim. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just war. It was genocide on a scale that dwarfed anything in human history. We have tried to find sanctuary among other spacefaring civilizations, Zelix continued. The Canthari Empire refused us entry, claiming neutrality. The Federation of Vex told us that interfering with the Krovar would bring destruction to their own worlds. The Arcadian Alliance simply ignored our pleas. 27 different species have turned us away, each with their own reasons for choosing survival over compassion. Dr. James Park, Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, shook his head in disgust. They're leaving an entire civilization to die rather than risk confrontation. Ambassador Zelix's message neared its conclusion, and his voice carried a mixture of hope and resignation that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. We do not know if humanity exists, if this message will reach anyone, or if there are species in this galaxy who still believe that some things are worth fighting for. Our remaining ships carry fewer than 2 million survivors from a civilization that once numbered in the billions. We ask not for armies or miracles, but simply for a place to exist until we can rebuild what has been lost. The transmission ended with coordinates to a location 17 light years from Earth, where the Thylaurian survivors were hiding in the debris field of a dead star system. Director Webb's voice came through the communication system with characteristic decisiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, I need recommendations, and I need them in the next hour. We have 2 million refugees fleeing genocide, and they've turned to us as their last hope. Dr. Carter spoke first. From a humanitarian perspective, we have no choice. If we have the capability to help, we must act. General Martinez nodded in agreement. The question isn't whether we should help, but whether we can help. The Krovar Dominion has destroyed 15 worlds and intimidated 27 other spacefaring civilizations. What makes us think we can succeed where others have failed? Captain Shun had been quiet during the discussion, but now she stood up and walked to the tactical display showing the star maps. General, with respect, I think we're approaching this from the wrong angle. Other civilizations didn't fail because they lacked the capability to help. They failed because they chose not to try. Captain, we're talking about facing an enemy that has conquered multiple star systems, General Martinez replied. Our entire space fleet consists of maybe 300 vessels, most of which are designed for system defense, not interstellar warfare. Webb's voice carried a hint of something that might have been amusement. General, I think it's time we showed our guests exactly what Earth's small defense fleet looks like. Captain Shun, I want you to prepare a task force for a humanitarian mission. Something modest, maybe a few dozen ships to escort the Thylaurian survivors to safety. Chun smiled, understanding immediately. Of course, sir. Just a small support fleet. Nothing too dramatic. Dr. Park looked confused. I'm sorry, but are we seriously considering taking on an interstellar empire with a few dozen ships? General Martinez's expression had changed as she caught on to what Webb and Shun were discussing. Dr. Park, you might want to review the classified sections of Earth's military capabilities. What we tell the public about our defense fleet is somewhat conservative. As the meeting continued, none of the participants fully understood that they were about to introduce the galaxy to humanity's greatest characteristic, their tendency to respond to requests for a little help with overwhelming and decisive force. In the depths of space, the Thylaurian survivors waited in the shadow of a dead star, hoping that somewhere in the darkness, someone had heard their call for help. They had no idea that their message had reached a species that considered impossible odds to be just another Tuesday, and overwhelming enemy forces to be an interesting tactical challenge. The next 24 hours would teach the galaxy a valuable lesson about the difference between civilizations that had never known real adversity and a species that had climbed to the stars by refusing to surrender in the face of extinction. Earth's response was about to begin, and the Krovar Dominion was about to learn why humanity had a reputation, even among themselves, for turning humanitarian missions into demonstrations of overwhelming military superiority. Asterisk. The human response 18 hours after receiving the Thylaurian distress call. Captain Sarah Chun stood in the observation deck of the orbital shipyard above Mars, watching what Director Webb had casually referred to as a modest support fleet take shape in the construction bays below. Even after 15 years in Earth's military, the sight before her was enough to make her question everything she thought she knew about humanity's defensive capabilities. Captain, the final squadron reports ready for deployment, announced Commander James Liu, Earth's Fleet Coordination Specialist. He consulted his tablet with the kind of casual efficiency that suggested assembling massive interstellar fleets was routine work. That brings our total to 847 vessels. Chon nearly choked on her coffee. 847? Commander, Director Webb said we were sending a small support fleet. Liu looked genuinely confused by her reaction. Ma'am, this is a small fleet. The real military task forces start at around 2,000 ships. This is just our rapid response capability. Through the observation windows, Chun watched as ships that shouldn't have existed according to public records emerged from hidden construction bays throughout the solar system. Massive carriers that dwarfed anything in the official Earth defense. Documentation deployed fighter squadrons that numbered in the thousands. Battleships that looked like floating cities powered up reactors that could probably supply energy to entire planets. Commander Liu, where exactly have we been hiding all of this? Chun asked, watching a ship that appeared to be the size of a small moon slowly maneuver into formation. Oh, the usual places. Lou replied with the tone of someone discussing the weather, asteroid mining facilities, research stations, the far side of various moons. You'd be surprised how much you can hide in space when you really try. Most of this has been under construction for the past 20 years. Dr. Elizabeth Carter's voice came through Chun's communication device, calling from the xenobiology lab, where she was studying the Thylorian data. Captain, I've been analyzing the information about Krovar military capabilities. Based on Thylorian records, we're looking at a force of approximately 1,200 ships spread across their conquered territory. Chun activated her response channel. Dr. Carter, thank you for the intelligence update. That's actually fewer ships than I expected. Captain, 1,200 warships capable of destroying multiple civilizations should be considered a significant threat. Carter replied with concern. Dr. Carter, Chun said, watching another squadron of human destroyers take their position in the growing fleet, I think our definition of significant threat might be different than you imagine. Meanwhile, in the Thylorian refugee fleet hiding, in the debris field of the Kepler 442 system, Ambassador Zelix sat in his command chamber reviewing the response they had received from the humans. The message had been brief and somewhat puzzling, consisting mainly of coordinates for a rendezvous point and an estimated arrival time of 72 hours. Ambassador, called Science Officer Thyra from her station, we're detecting some unusual readings from the direction the humans indicated they would approach. The sensors are showing what appears to be a small fleet, maybe 30 or 40 ships. Zelix felt a mixture of gratitude and disappointment. He had hoped that this species called humanity might be different from the others they had contacted. But apparently, they were also offering only token assistance. Still, any help was better than facing the Krovar alone. Maintain our position and prepare to greet our new allies, Zelix ordered. Even a small gesture of support will mean everything to our people. What Zelix didn't understand was that human stealth technology was approximately 300 years more advanced than Thylorian sensors could detect, and what appeared to be 40 ships was actually the forward reconnaissance element of a fleet. That numbered in the hundreds. Admiral Rebecca Stone commanded the human task force from the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, a vessel that had been classified beyond top secret for the past decade. At 62, Stone had overseen the development of humanity's deep space capabilities, including technologies that wouldn't be revealed to the public for another century. Admiral, we're approaching the rendezvous coordinates, reported Captain Maria Santos, the fleet's navigation specialist. Thylorian survivors confirmed on sensors approximately 200 vessels of various sizes. They appear to be in worse condition than their messages indicated. Stone studied the tactical display showing the refugee fleet. The Thylorian ships were clearly designed for peaceful purposes, with elegant curves and artistic details that spoke of a civilization that had never needed to consider military practicality. Many showed signs of hasty repairs and damage from their flight from the Krovar. Captain Santos signaled the Thylorian flagship. Let them know we're here to help. The main screen activated, showing Ambassador Zelix for the first time. The alien was approximately humanoid, with pale silver skin and large, expressive eyes that reflected intelligence and exhaustion. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had seen his entire civilization nearly destroyed. Greetings, Admiral Stone of the human fleet. I am Ambassador Zelix, and I speak for the last free Thylorians in the galaxy. We are grateful beyond words that you have come to assist us, even with your limited resources. Stone smiled with the kind of confidence that came from commanding forces that most civilizations couldn't imagine. Ambassador Zelix, it's an honor to meet you. Don't worry about our resources. We brought enough. Admiral, your 40 ships are already more than we dared hope for, Zelix replied. Perhaps together We can find a way to avoid the Krovar fleets and escort our people to safety." Captain Santos looked at Admiral Stone with barely concealed amusement. "Mom, should we show them the full fleet?" "I think it's time, Captain." "Ambassador Zelix, you might want to adjust your sensor arrays. We have a few more ships than your equipment is currently detecting." Across the human fleet, stealth systems deactivated simultaneously. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly filled with hundreds of vessels of every size and configuration. Carriers that could launch fighter. Wings numbering in the thousands appeared alongside battleships designed to crack planets. Support vessels carrying enough firepower to reduce moons to asteroids took their positions in formations that stretched across multiple light seconds of space. On the Thylorian flagship, every alarm system activated at once as sensors registered. Ship after ship materializing from what had appeared to be empty space. Science Officer Thyra stared at her displays in shock, watching the numbers climb past anything she had imagined possible. "Ambassador," Thyra called out in a voice barely above a whisper, "I count 847 human vessels. The computer systems cannot accurately calculate their total firepower, but preliminary estimates suggest they could. They could destroy entire star systems." Zelix stared at the main screen, where Admiral Stone waited patiently for his response. The human admiral's expression was calm and professional, as if commanding a fleet larger than most civilizations' entire military was routine for her species. "Admiral Stone," Zelix finally managed to say, "when your people said you would send a small support fleet... This is a small fleet, Ambassador," Stone replied matter-of-factly. "Our definition of a large fleet is somewhat different." "Now, where exactly are these Krovar forces that have been bothering you?" Before Zelix could answer, alarms began sounding throughout both fleets. Long-range sensors detected the approach of Krovar ships, apparently drawn by the energy signatures of the human fleet's arrival. "Admiral," reported Captain Santos, "we have incoming Krovar forces. Approximately 200 ships, moving in standard attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Admiral Stone's expression didn't change. "Only 200? Captain, signal the fleet. All ships to general quarters, but maintain peacekeeping protocols. This appears to be a minor police action." "Ambassador." Zelix couldn't quite process what he was hearing. "Admiral, 200 Krovar ships destroyed our home defense fleet of 60 vessels in under an hour. They are not a minor threat." "Ambassador, I appreciate your concern, but 200 ships barely qualifies as a skirmish by human standards. We'll have this resolved quickly." As the Krovar fleet approached, their commander, War Chief Morlock, studied his tactical displays with confidence. Intelligence reports indicated that the Thylorian refugees had somehow acquired allies, but the readings showed only a few hundred ships. The Krovar had defeated much larger forces in their expansion across the sector. "All ships, attack formation," Morlock commanded. "Destroy the alien fleet and finish the Thylorian extermination. The Dominion will tolerate no interference with our operations." What Morlock didn't understand was that he was about to engage a species that had spent the last century preparing for conflicts on a scale that would make the Krovar expansion look like a minor territorial dispute. Humanity had reached the stars by refusing to accept defeat, and they had built their military capabilities based on the assumption that they would eventually face enemies that vastly outnumbered them. "Admiral, Krovar ships are targeting our formation," Captain Santos reported. "They appear to be powering weapon systems. Very well. Signal the fleet. Weapons free, but keep collateral damage to a minimum. We don't want to accidentally hurt the Thylorian refugees." Across the human fleet, weapon systems that represented the pinnacle of human engineering came online. Energy weapons capable of destabilizing matter at the subatomic level targeted Krovar vessels with computer-guided precision. Missile systems launched projectiles that could adjust their flight paths to account for relativistic physics. Fighter squadrons deployed from their carriers, like swarms of mechanical hornets, each piloted by humans who considered impossible odds to be just another interesting challenge. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, the Krovar attack fleet had been completely neutralized with such overwhelming efficiency that Ambassador Zelix wondered if he had imagined the entire engagement. "Admiral Stone," Zelix said slowly, "in 14 minutes, you destroyed a force that my people couldn't defeat with our entire military. Ambassador, your people are peaceful explorers and artists. We're humans. We have a different approach to problem solving." As the last Krovar ship was disabled, Admiral Stone turned to Captain Santos. "Captain, signal Earth Defense Command. Let them know we've resolved the immediate crisis and are proceeding with refugee escort duties. Also, send our compliments to Director Webb and tell him that his small support fleet has proven adequate for the mission." Ambassador Zelix realized that his people's desperate call for help had reached a species that didn't just possess the power to stand against the Krovar Dominion, but to make them irrelevant. The refugees were not just saved. They were under the protection of a civilization that treated interstellar warfare as a routine military exercise. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest characteristic wasn't their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to allow genocide to continue when they had the power to stop it. The Krovar Dominion's expansion had just encountered a species that considered overwhelming odds to be the starting point for a no. Interesting afternoon. Asterisk.